noise.
Welcome back to the next part of this Truth and Rhythm episode. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. Also become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you so much for your interest and support. Enjoy.
So for that record, how long had most of it sort of been in the can, and how much was done close to its release?
Well, Mia Boca had been in the can since '82, so it only got a revitalization when Claire Fisher put the strings on it, and then it ended up in the movie of Under the Cherry Moon. So by that time, I had gone in with David Z, and we were in New York at Electric Ladyland recording, and for the most part, I think it took another year after we completed it, because I wouldn't sign my contract. There was a point where I was going to walk away and go, and to some level I did go away and did other songs for other people and my own demos and stuff, but I did not sign my recording contract with Prince until a year or so later. Yeah.
And when he would give,
there was a hesitancy.
When he would give you demos with the guide vocals, how much would you try to stick to that? How much did he expect you to stick to it? Did you take a lot of leeway?
He didn't expect me to do it, to take it at all. And sometimes he would just, it wasn't even, sometimes if there were songs that we did together, like Violet Blue or like Mia Boca, they were not technically guides. They were, but they weren't, but I was present. So already we knew the melody. Mia Boca, particularly because we called a lot of restaurants to figure out what the Spanish should be or the Italian, but it ended up being like Spanglish, whatever. And my grammar was really bad in Italian, as the Italians corrected me all the time. But the whole point was that the other ones that he would send to New York and say, can you do this or can you do that? He stayed pretty much hands-free. It was David Z who really produced the record. The other songs, definitely. My Man was done with Prince. That was pretty quick. That was such an easy melody to know, and I had a lot of free leeway on it. Because David Z would have never let me do it so exaggerated as Elvis. It was almost like me and Prince were fucking around so much that we destroyed. We should have stayed a little more pure with the song. I had such a love for Elvis. It was just I don't know, for me, I was like, this is an Elvis song. But yeah, David Z would not have tolerated that. He would have been like, hang on a minute. He was definitely the level head in all of it, in putting it together. And if it wasn't for him and Sophie Bramley, there would never have been a record. That's the actual truth.
Now, you got plenty of writing credits on that record. Was there any ever disputes about any of those kind of credits?
Well, Prince put a lot of writing credits out for people with for posterity. I don't know. There were never any disputes, but there are disputes today. Since he's died, Lord have mercy, have there been disputes? But also, if you had a dispute with him over the years, it was difficult because it was, it is basically like the feudal system. What are you going to do when the king is like, runs the land and everything? Nobody believes you. So what can you do? Should have married a lawyer.
Well, it was a fantastic album. I mean, I don't know how you felt about it. If you felt like, because
I
it took
love
so
the
long.
album.
Okay, good. You should. I think it's, widely, as I'm sure claimed as one of, if not the best, associate record, just front to back. It's just so strong.
Right.
So you only had that one shot. You knocked it out of the park, at least,
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, I feel never to be heard from again. No, but yeah, I definitely did have but it was wonderful that that Europe opened its arms to me. They were very kind. They understood a lot more creatively about the process and everything. America wasn't very kind, and it really just wanted to beat women up. It was actually quite cruel. Most of the reviews were horrible, and good thing I had a thick skin. I didn't even read half of them, but they were really mean.
I don't know what your favorite on there is, but Violet Blue is definitely up there for me.
Yeah, that one is because yes, that's my favorite.
Good. Now the cover concept is kind of a Marilyn Monroe kind of thing.
That was by chance because I looked so far away from Marilyn Monroe. It really was by chance. We were walking with a photographer in the city of New York and just goofing around that day. And it was a little chilly. That was like my normal clothes and whatever. And she took the picture with her 2 German friends and me, and my dog. So yeah, that was really wild. Not planned.
Was that your choice that you wanted to go with, or somebody else picked it, or?
We had a lot of glam shots, which came out later in other pictures and other singles. But when the photographer looked at those shots and the young women at Warner Brothers, I think they thought this represented me more. And then Prince saw it and went, "Wow, this is so cool." He really liked it. And they asked if I said, "Yeah, I think this is totally me," because, it's definitely more my style.
Did you get to go out and perform it at all?
Yeah, we performed. We opened for Level 42 and somebody else at like a couple events, but not like the full on tour. We had been rehearsing for almost a year. I had my guitar player was my MD, and he was like he had worked with the New York Dolls. Like I had some really great musicians, my Lonnie Hillier, who'd been in Maggie's Dream. So I had some really great players, and Prince decided not to take me out on the tour. We were supposed to go on that tour in, what was it? And he didn't.
Times or Love Sexy.
Sign of the Times. So, it was like, whatever. And that was really not great because it put me in a lot of dire straits financially. And then, I've been paying these guys for almost half of a year. So we had to pick up gigs, whatever we could. And then that record was just getting no support here. It was really bad. And then the label didn't want to give me the support alone to go on somebody else's tour in Europe. So it was like a total setup.
That's a shame, especially with all that preceded it.
And it really depressed me. And Angie Stone was my backing singer in that thing. If those people and her prowess and her knowledge of the business, because Angie had been in a band called Sequence back in the day. And
I got to just tell you, recently interviewed her. That show's going to air next week.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
So with these were legendary people who'd been in it longer than me, who could kind of make some sense to me about what, okay, this is what's happening. Don't worry. Whatever. She kind of was the calm in the middle of the storm. That was really tricky. It was very difficult for me. And what I always loved about Angie Stone was how happy and supportive she was to see you win as another woman. If something good happened for you, she was like, oh, Jill, I'm so happy. And, you know, I had been starving for friendships like that. I'd been starving in the Paisley camp because we didn't have that. This really was amazing. And I will never forget it. And I'm so happy for her success because she deserves it. She worked her ass off for it. There were times she tried to hook me up through the years with other people to write. And, you know, I'm not as great a songwriter as Angie can write a hook. If she's no joke, she just has that capacity, you know, but I will never forget her kindness ever.
How did you meet her in the first place?
She came to the audition for the band. And I just fell in love with her like vibe immediately and her voice. And she was just so amazing. She's just a good person, just really a good woman.
That's great to hear, especially with, she has had an amazing career, you know, like I told her she's had like 3 or 4 different careers for one person, you know?
Sagittarius, she's tough. She's resilient. She is the Centaurian.
So given your mom's background in music and management, I mean, was she giving you any advice while you're going through this, you know, Paisley situation?
She found it very hard because there was a situation of me being romantically involved. Those are really hard, not great things to do. If I'd had any common sense, I'd have called up, had somebody, they would have gotten an intervention with Diana Ross and had her sit me down and say, look, you got to make a move and make a decision. But I will tell you one person who did, this is so random because she's friends with my stepsister, but I was at one Grammy show, I think the one that Prince performed at, and was in the audience, and everybody's standing there and he's performing. And in the middle of it, Debbie Allen turned around and she said, you should be up there. And I went, what? And I didn't know if she knew me. I was like, huh? And she goes, you should be up there. You need to like think about where you need to be. It was like, I don't know, she may never remember this, but she was right. But it gave me chills because she knew that somehow she just knew. And something got in her, like the Lord, like the Holy Spirit got in her. She literally turned around and said, you should be up there. And you need to think about what you're doing. Like, it was almost like a sisterly, like I see you. And you're about to throw everything away because you're in love with this person. And that's going to fuck you all the way up. That's how it felt. And it really was a very like, oh my God. But she wasn't wrong. She read me in like 2 seconds. But that's what the problem was. That was the biggest problem of all.
Yeah, it's prophetic. To what extent do you think that you got to see Prince being the real Prince and showing vulnerability?
I don't know. Because I don't know. I can only presume what I think was real vulnerability, or maybe it was or it wasn't. But honestly, I don't know. I think the best way we could say maybe would be through songs. And even that can feel like it's crafted from some musical theater. You know, vulnerability. Yeah, I don't know. I think that when people are performers too much, that it's not a natural state to be looking at yourself all the time, to be evaluating how or curating your look or how you respond. And I think that's very unhealthy. And I think it takes you so far away from who you really are. And by the time you end your life, if you don't correct that, who will know at all who you are? Scott, I don't really think it's a natural state for people to be like that. They need to get out in nature or do things. And as he never took vacations, he never enjoyed to imbue his senses with like, anything that, nature wise, or even, the things that made him enjoy it. But I think they were all safety zones. They weren't outside his comfort level. And holidays and going out and trying to have a conversation with other people would have probably done him a bit of good.
I've had people from the camp on the show say things like, that sometimes, very rarely, they might see him sort of slip into where it seemed like he was kind of, and maybe letting himself be vulnerable and letting his guard down, but he would realize it and quickly change that.
Yeah, he would, especially if you caught it and you saw it. And if, it's kind of like you see a wounded animal and you go and you reach to help it and it bites you or swats at you. Yeah.
So that's, that makes me feel sad, but also, compassion, for whatever foibles he might have had. Certainly to me, the greatest musical genius that we've had. I don't know if you agree with that. You were so close to it, but I love guys like Stevie Wonder and so many
I did know
others.
Stevie Wonder, so it's really, really hard.
Yeah, Stevie's the other one for
pretty
sure.
Amazing, just on another plane all the time.
Yeah. Plus, Stevie's aura is just something else.
Right, it's unbelievable, mind blowing.
Yeah.
And so generous. And there's this, although, then you look at like Smokey. I was looking at Smokey Robinson the other day and I was like, oh my God, Smokey just has it. Like, he just looks fantastic physically, his chi energy, all of it. Like, he just looks really good. Fantastic. And what a wonderful human being, on so many levels. And, he gives you the showbiz still too, which is nice. That's he should, and where he is in his life. But definitely, I don't know, it's a crazy business. And the ones that survive it, you have to look to them and go, how did they do this?
Yeah, I was just in Vegas last week and I saw the Smokey billboards. He's still playing Vegas. So
yeah, gasm.
Now, rumor has it, and you can substantiate it, and you probably have elsewhere, but that She's Always in My Hair was inspired by you. So,
yep.
Okay,
that's what I was told. Yeah.
Did Prince share that with you, or?
Yeah, he gave it to me when he gave me the cassette. Yeah.
So did that just really touch you? And did you wonder why he wrote it, or it all made sense? Or
I know why he wrote it, but I mean, it did touch me. It's just, it's like I said, it had been a long haul. It was continuing to be a long emotional haul. And when you're in those kind of dysfunctional relationships, it's tough. You get gifts, you get presents, cars, jewelry, all these things. And by association with a fight, that's always a crazy thing. That's the bad thing about when you argue with people, or people make up with gestures, because they'll, you associate the bauble with what it was, the gesture with the whole situation. Maybe not great.
how many tours did you end up going out on?
With him, one.
Oh,
it was enough. But I went and flew out on the Purple Rain tour a lot, just because I just wanted to be a pain. But yeah, I had carte blanche to get on a jet anytime I wanted to. Anytime. That was not a problem.
And shortly after you came on, he fired Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Do you have any recollection of that, or was it too early?
He fired them when we were dealing with the tour of not showing up. That was, there was nothing underhanded other than just like anybody else would have been freaking out. we didn't have anybody to play the show for the girls. It was really pretty, what do you do with that? I didn't get too much into, I like Jimmy Jam. I like Terry. I think it's a hilarious story. And I know they were getting popular. He was just mad too, because they had a lot of other stuff happening for them. So it was amicably, I guess, all these were like little marriages of his. And that one just had to come to an end. Because those guys were never going to be able to get what they needed in the situation. And if Cavallo, Ruffalo, and Farnoli had been smarter, they'd have, figured out a way to make that work for everybody. But those guys didn't see these African-American guys in that way. And that's really what that kind of was about. They didn't see that. They didn't see that the SOS band and all these things were really burgeoning and happening from that area. They didn't have their eye on the ball musically, what was going on. They just were Prince, 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 Prince. We're going to turn, he's going to be the biggest rock star ever. But there was an opportunity there that, I really feel, they should always look back and go, how did we miss that? How did we miss that we had two of the best producers in the world sitting here for real? And Prince also, like, how could you miss not learning from them? Because you all could have shared the kingdom. You could have shared a lot more together than you needed, if you'd have just shown them a little bit more respect for their talent, because they really had their ear to the ground and the pulse on something that Prince had long was not near anymore, because he had bodyguards and things. He missed it.
Do you know Sandra St. Victor?
She's a musician, right?
Yeah, she's a singer.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know who she is. I don't know her.
Okay. I was just curious. She was on the show a while back, and she said in the early 90s, she had a chance to sort of be a Prince protege, and she kind of went a different direction because she felt like she didn't want to be in that machine sort of, and possibly get kind of lost in it. And so she's had a very eclectic kind of, career. And I was just curious because I'm sure you could relate to some of how she felt. So
I think the protege thing has been kind of taken a little bit out of context. I mean, he didn't, ever come up with people who came up with that word. I get it. But if you were going to be that, he would let you know that that's what he wanted to do with your project. It may have taken me a long time to get it together, but everybody else has projected this protege thing. And there's a machine. If you worked with Prince as protege or not, you were going to be in the machine. Let me just make that. There was no differentiation between a protege and the guy behind the stage or anybody, because it was always on his time, Prince's time. So I've often found it really interesting and almost a little smug to say something like that, because, the reason when you go and you take that responsibility, whether it was Vanity, Apollonia, Susan, Brenda, whatever they say, proteges, the budgets were our budgets. We had to pay, our lives were held in suspension because we paid the bills for however way we had to. It was our responsibility at the end of the day. So to just do that whole Prince protege, like, oh, you spread your legs and then you get a deal and blah, blah. No, there was even more to that. Like, these women worked their asses off. And I still will never take anything away from all the ones who came before, for real. It's so interesting because it's there weren't any proteges after in the 90s. I'm just going to be like straight up. There weren't. Maybe Carmen was the last one.
Well,
there weren't any more.
Maite had a record.
Maite was his wife. She wasn't his protege. That was his wife. And people need to understand that too. There's wife and that in all respect, but no, because, that is his wife. She had her own talent, but and God, can you imagine having to juggle all that with your husband? That's a heavy burden to bear too. So I get it, but everybody else who's like, I was considering it, but I didn't. I'm like, yeah, okay. You didn't bear the weight of what that word protege and working with Prince was. It was heavy. You had a lot of responsibility, and it usually ended in tears. If you don't have any tears to show for it, you didn't work with Prince.
When did you actually exit that situation?
1993.
And what precipitated you find, what was the last straw, if there was one?
Just time. And I got married, and I just had enough. I didn't even know. By the time I ended, I wasn't even sure I wanted to do any of this anymore. I was writing out my contract, and I was writing and hiding, and living in London and living in New York. And yeah, I went on and, had a family, and I was still under contract. It was very difficult.
Had you done the symbol name thing yet before you left, or?
Yeah, he did the symbol, the name thing. Yeah. Which was crazy.
I know you did 3 other records I mentioned. They were very different. They were kind of acoustic rock, a couple of them, and I'm sure they were personal, is what I'm getting from it. That, yeah.
2 for sure.
How'd you feel about how they were received? Did you have expectations on a certain level, or?
No, the internet was really new. And it's funny, each time anybody's put anything out with me, like after I left Prince, I, went and, like I said, had a family. But each time, like the 2 album came about because my friend Dave Honnell decided to put it online. And then the same happened with the London sessions. I'd say Neil Billinus, he did it. So I've kind of been just, tiptoeing around music for a long time, but I'd stepped away for a while. I had gone into different careers. I, at one point, had moved into interior design. I actually did a few executives at Columbia there, and Virgin, their offices and homes. But yeah, I moved into that, and then advertising, marketing. So it's kind of fishing around a little bit, but to pursue and receive music anymore, I kind of thought those days were done. I did it because I thought maybe there was a chance, but by the time I got off of my deal, I was like 30 something, early 30s. That wasn't going to happen. It just, in those days and age, they wanted like young, dumb, and that's it, young and dumb, and sign right here. And I had already been through the mill, and they weren't going to like pick me up anymore. London Records did briefly, but then my mom got sick, and that deal was just going to fall through. I had to make a choice. It was like Sophie's Choice. Do you continue with your record and keep going on, or do you say, Mom, I'm going to kick you to the curb. You have terminal cancer. See you later. No. Just I whatever, those years, they were what they were. The songs that came from them were definitely personal because they were a release, for me. But and I did a few gigs in the city here and there, and I don't know. That was that.
Were you still in touch at all with Teena when she passed in 2010?
Yeah. I saw Teena like a few months before, actually.
Way too young. That was terrible.
She was way too young, for sure.
Yeah. And then you came back a few years later with a very different electronic dance kind of record. And because we're on this podcast, I can say it, I guess, that one track I really like, with the F word in it.
F you till you're groovy.
Yeah.
That record I did with my friend Brinsley Evans. I think there's a few with Willie Washington. Dance Guys and Peace Biscuit with Bill Coleman put that out. It was fun. It was just kind of a no-brainer. And through the years, I had been doing little spots and little things because they'd pay some money. Like if I did a commercial or I did X, Y, and Z, I could, get some money on the side. It wasn't like, what could I do to get extra income? I was a single mom at that point. So yeah, I was really hustling, but I wasn't, didn't know what else I was going to be doing musically.
And we should mention when you left Prince's camp, you had a second record basically ready to go, right? And it just didn't get put together. Is that true? Or because I know there was a single Boom Boom, right?
Well, these were songs that we had, and yeah, they were not going to, we even did a video for things, and everything's just fell apart. And that was that.
So that brings us to the new record finally. Again, at the outset, like I said, it's fantastic. I urge everybody to go get it. The London Sessions, 7 new songs, at least to my ears. And tell us, how that developed and, what inspired some of the tracks.
I've always written. I always have, those were guitar based. As the years went, it was harder for me to keep a piano in New York City. It was a little bit difficult. Keyboard is one thing, but I used to have a baby grand. It was a little difficult to keep that and to move around as much as I was doing. So I always had a guitar. And so they were guitar based. They were little demos. My friend Chris Bruce and I did a lot of them on like 8-track. And then we graduated into going to London. Chris wasn't there. There were other producers who my manager at the time had hooked me up with over there. And that's how we put the record together.
So how long was the gestation of it?
30-something years. Because Neil Billinus had the copies, and so that was kind of amazing. He was like, you need to put them out. He's always been a real champion, always championed me. And yeah, I thought it was great. And what's so amazing about Neil is, I had met Neil in the 90s. He had listened to my 2 album, and he'd also had a website up of me. He actually kept me alive digitally. And I was working in the design and doing interiors at the time. And I saw this video. I was like, I'm not the video, the website. I was like, Jill Jones. Oh my God, who's this guy? And we became friends. And, he has always been so helpful and kind. And so many things he's gone through. We've known each other for, God, a long time now. And he's the most resilient person I know. He has fought back on everything that's ever happened to him. And he's just a winner. And so it's good to have people like that around you when they want to walk through a storm and go, you want to go? And you're like, oh, okay, as long as I'm with you, then we're good. And that's how I feel about him. He's pretty fearless, and the music industry didn't scare him. It doesn't frighten him like it really does to me. Like the people I think are just awful in this business, most of them, if they're outside of my family. I'm like, oh my God, how do you deal with this? It's the Hunger Games, but because I think it's because he's Scottish. And he's like, William Wallace or whatever. Like, he's just like, let's go. And I just think, he's like, put it out, get it done. Like, let's do it. And I really want to do this. And so he spearheaded this project. So he selected all these songs that I had done. He's since found even more that I have had out there. And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. I'm not getting any younger. And if anything, it's just a great way to have a cool digital library for my future, my legacy, my kids, and whatever as they go.
Well, I feel like all these years later, sonically and quality wise, it's, a successor to that first record.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah.
The Unattainable Love musically, I feel a little Kraftwerk kind of vibe in there.
Yeah.
And two of my favorites are, I'm a funketeer. Hopefully you've gathered that.
Yes.
Are So Some of Us
Yes.
and Long Time.
Yeah. Long time. Yeah. Those were, they're great. It's so funny because in those days, you know, it's, and it's still to this day, it's so rare to have female producers and production people. So I've always been at the mercy of the men in this business to put things together or to produce them. Sad to say, have I felt that, yeah. And so I've had to rely on people interpreting what I've written and showing it in the best light. I think that they did a great job. I think Gary Sanctuary was very involved in that project and a few other people. I can't remember everybody's names and I apologize for that. But it's, now it's a new day. There's so many young women producing their own music and keeping it to stay true to its authenticity. I love that.
I want longer versions of those two tracks.
I know. I wish, and I think how that happened was that we were still working them out. They weren't even, you know what I mean? That was like, this is where we are with this. This is going to be great. We got a vibe of this. And then we just never went back and yeah.
Yeah. I need to get somebody
to do our own
do the
remixes
12, bring the 12-inch back. And
yeah,
for sure. Do you see yourself performing again or?
No, I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe a little bit, but no, not really. So this is like what you see is what you get. Like, this is it. I don't know. No.
So, what would success look like for you regarding this project?
I'm just happy that everybody is enjoying it. Seriously. I'm really like, wow, this is a hoot. Like seriously, I feel so connected to my Ohio roots as I get older. And my my vibe is very much like, okay, enjoy it. I hope everybody just enjoys it. It's not here to sell you anything or make you like me or, follow this, let's do this. It really is, enjoy it. Just take a minute, put your shit down and go do something, clean your house to it. I don't care, but like it and have a little bit of fun and feel like you're like 20 something years old again and just go on and give it a, get rid of all this 21st century shit for a couple of hours. I mean, that's how I feel about, a lot of things because I have to deprogram and walk away. I just want to feel as connected to nature and normalcy as possible because this stuff has stressed me out. This everything too much.
Yeah, thank God for music.
I want to take a walk. I want to if I could get a Walkman and give away with this thing, I'd be like, here's a Walkman, put it on cassette and just go around, just chill and feel young because so many days we just wake up feeling old about stuff. And I feel like Unattainable Love, when you hear the keyboard, dun, dun, da, 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 it really is like you just get a little pep in your step when you walk. I love it.
So I put down, here's my description, peppy dance pop.
Yeah. And it's perfect because it is peppy. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the artwork, it looks like you're kind of peeking over, you're kind of peeking we finally got this thing released.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's true.
So we might see more music. You said you might.
Yeah. Maybe so. I think so. Fantastic. I mean, since we just found a few more that, maybe so.
Was it just a coincidence with the timing of the release being in April, kind of the 8th anniversary of Prince?
Totally. It totally was. I mean, my Aprils, I tend to now just, usually I'm not that much online during it. I say my piece and, think about a little bit, sometimes reflect on Prince. But yeah, this was a coincidence. However, Apple said, they give you these dates that they're going to release it. And you're like, oh my goodness. Neil contacted me. I was like, oh, wow, really? That long? So that was that. Yeah. That day, the 16th.
And you released that song "I Miss You" as a tribute.
I did. And
yeah.
that was, I really felt like I needed to say that. I do, you can miss people. Even if you don't talk to them, you miss the fact that they're somewhere, even if you can't stand them or even if you adore them, doing their thing. Whatever it might be, you just know that there's an energy somewhere or a light somewhere that just went off. And that's always sad because I miss that, because as long as that, no matter how the world turns, you remove a couple things from it, it's not the same world, no matter what. You take something away and it just changes the vibration. So, yeah.
Let's tell people where they can get that record. It's at all the streaming services, right? All the usual suspects. It's pretty widely distributed. And do you have a website as well?
No, just okay. Instagram, Jill Jones Official. And then my Facebook page, Jill Jones Music. I don't like desperate anything. I don't like to be around people that feel desperate. I think the release, that's what album releases are always like. We got to make it. And if we don't make it in the next couple of weeks, then it's all over. And that anxiety really was too much for me. I actually really believe that the music industry is the reason I have Hashimoto's, which I have now. I really believe all that stress of living this really ridiculous stuff is part of it, part and parcel. This is so wonderful to put something out with no expectations. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's pretty holistic how this record came out. And I think we should do more of that.
Yeah, bring it on,
Yeah, follow our bliss.
Anything else you'd like to just get out there to the fans and those that have admired you all these years?
I love the fans. I'm so supportive of even their ventures and their takes on all of this, because they've been through a lot with Prince. So, and a lot of them have done some amazing creative works. A lot of podcasts have sprung from, his passing, which is really, really not, but if you want to look on the bright side and go, wow, there's so many people that, really loved him and adored him. Talk about an energy that really went to this one person. That's another thing. So there's this energy, but then there's all these millions of energies being sent to this one person. That's a lot. He was a lucky guy. He was lucky to know you all. So, for me, that I have to thank everybody for being there for him as long as they were, because at the end, it seems like the fans were really all he had at the end of it all.
Mm.
They really were, like, holding it down as long as anybody could, but they always showed up for him, rain or shine. And that is something that got a clap about that.
Well, he gave his all every time out. So
he did. A little so-and-so, as my grandma would say, that little so-and-so.
Yeah.
Could get on your nerves though, but loved him to death. But that's just how it was, I don't know. But yeah, I think we miss his place here. But these things, hopefully he's having a good time.
Yeah. And hopefully AI will help get you squared away at some point, and you'll get your just desserts as far as
hopefully they'll square his stuff away and find some of his things. It's so amazing. This, we will probably never see instrumentalists the way we see from this era. We are moving into an era where these kids can't even, won't even know what a trumpet versus a horn instrument, sax, keyboard. They won't know how to play them. This is a new era we're in. And it's kind of sad that he wasn't here to kind of see that. But I think he actually did see it with his third eye, what was coming down the pike.
Yeah. Well, I do my little part to help preserve those legacies of real music,
Yeah,
real
you do.
musicians. And
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
before we jump, Jill, I understand you have an event coming up, so we want to make sure that we get that out to the people. What's happening?
So on May 26th, there's the Purple Rain 40th film screening, and there will be an event, and everyone is invited to come. There will be a panel. I think Jerome Benton will be on one of them, and a few other TBDs. I will be there, a couple other people. So that's going to be a fun event because it's 40 years. Can you believe it? I know.
I cannot believe it. No,
Hey, what font is that anyway? Has anyone figured it out? Is it the Prince font?
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I remember so well when that did come out, though, because I was in Los Angeles and it was the Olympics year for Los Angeles.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was. That was quite a summer. Yeah.
I lived in Westwood, so it at that time, and it was definitely, crazy, crazy, crazy Olympic Village. And yeah, fantastic. I hope I see a lot of people on the 26th, though. I think it'll be a blast. There'll be merch. There'll be a lot of stuff.
That sounds great. That'll be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate so much you coming on, Jill, and sharing those stories.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I think you do a great job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And maybe we'll meet in person one day. It'd be a pleasure. But if not, good to meet you this way.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Truth in Rhythm. A big thank you goes out to our guest as well as to you, the viewer and listener. Also, much gratitude to Pleasure for supplying the show's funky opening and closing music. As a reminder, you can always access the complete list of linked shows by episode at funkandstuff.net. I urge you to support this program and receive the extra benefits along with that by subscribing to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube and sharing it with funk, R&B, and jazz lovers, joining Truth and Rhythm's membership program at Patreon, submitting a donation at funkandstuff.net, buying Everything is on the One, the First Guide to Funk book at Amazon, shopping at the Funky Things store for cool merchandise at funkandstuff.net, and linking through funkandstuff.net for all of your Amazon purchases. In addition, if you're an artist or anyone seeking proven, results-oriented professional marketing, PR, writing, or editing consultation or production, check out the media services section at funkandstuff.net. Also, I encourage you to drop me a line at scottg@funkandstuff.net. I love the feedback, suggestions, guest requests, appearance and sponsorship inquiries, and just talking about my favorite subject, groove-based music. For now, and as always, this is Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibing to the rhythm of the one.